I'm really happy to be here in my alma mater. My name is Paloma Noriega, and I have always been very passionate about protecting nature and making sure that we as humans can live in harmony with it. And today I want to talk to you about how the global movement to stop climate change, build resilience, and restore the environment can also help to build peace. This potential is something that I have seen up close, both during my years as a young climate activist, as well as now as part of my work, helping governments to come to agreements on how best to fight climate change. As a young student, when I became aware of the impacts of climate change in people and ecosystems, I decided I needed to do something about it. So I joined the global community of environmental and climate activists and began to advocate for sustainability from my family and my community, as well as to join climate demonstrations, including later the Fridays for Futures. Being part of this global community of people from all different origins and backgrounds, with the common goal of saving the planet, truly inspired me. Not only was I amazed and empowered by feeling the energy of people coming together to fight climate change, but I also became aware of how the social differences became blurred and people could build stronger connections outside of their usual networks. This realization became more pronounced as I moved here to Geneva for my master's and marched with activists from all around the world. People, and especially young people from different countries, including countries that were in conflict with each other at the time, would walk and sing hand in hand, united by the realization that only standing together can we save the planet for ourselves and future generations. When I started working for the United Nations Climate Change Office, I was able to see more clearly the power of the global climate movement to bridge the differences and foster peace. I have been able to experience how global networks of different kinds, such as women, youth, farmers, business people, and investors, act jointly and in harmony to advocate for stronger climate action. While individual members have different nationalities, come from different backgrounds, and can have very different views on fundamental things like politics or religion, by acting together in the climate sphere, they find this common ground, form alliances, and even friendships that overcome these differences. This unity is not only reflected among activists or civil society. At the COP climate negotiations each year, I am always amazed to be a witness about how government representatives from countries that don't usually get along or are actually at active war against each other can put aside their differences for just a few hours to work together and figure out the best way to fight climate change. Having a common cause allows the negotiators from all sides to perceive their common humanity and realize that there is ultimately a shared interest to join forces to preserve ourselves and future generations. While this global network of climate and environmental actors work together in different ways, there is very little awareness on how these connections can be leveraged for peace. This is the first goal I have in my work on climate change related to peace, raising awareness among these climate activists and practitioners of the power that they hold to advance peace in their communities and their countries. This has been challenging so far, as peace is not often a topic discussed under the climate negotiations. Nevertheless, when I have raised this point recently with some groups of people, I am happy to have heard through these conversations that some initiatives are starting to come up that include both climate and peace activists working together on peace building. However, much more can be done, and I hope that people here today working on peace building start to consider ways of how to involve these climate networks in their activities and break the silos between environment and peace conversations. The second point I want to raise with you today is that there is another link between climate change and peace. Since I started working with climate change, I have been very moved to hear the stories of people in the ground being affected by climate change and how the limited capacity to respond to some of these challenges is already leading to conflict. I recently heard the Prime Minister of the Marshall Islands mention the dilemma on having to choose which islands to save from sea level rise, as the populations are already being temporarily displaced because of climate impacts, and this has led to conflict with the communities in the islands they have to flee to. I have also recently heard from a young Kenyan activist a story on how the increased droughts because of climate change is leading to conflict between Maasai communities in the border between Kenya and Tanzania. Ending up in violent conflict is the worst possible scenario for those already affected severely by climate change, and it is our common responsibility as a global community to make everything we can to avoid these kinds of situations. Climate action, particularly the adaptation efforts to build resilience and nature-based solutions, can reduce the conflict by limiting the negative effects of climate change and ensuring that populations can fulfill their basic needs and develop sustainably. This is the second goal I have in my work on climate change relating to peace, advancing adaptation efforts and making sure that this is done in a peace-responsive way. This is something I try to advance in my work on adaptation substantively in the UN, as well as by becoming a part of networks of practitioners, researchers, and governments that understand this challenge and are accelerating actions to align the peace and climate agendas, many of which are here today. While I sometimes feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the climate crisis, as well as by the tragedies and horrors happening around the world because of war and violence, I am still optimistic that we can solve both challenges when I look around me at the action that is already taking place and at the amazing and innovative solutions on climate change, many of them led by young people. Furthermore, I can see that the awareness on the link between climate action and peace building is growing, and I am hopeful that we will see very positive developments in this regard in years to come. For example, this year at COP28, peace will feature more strongly than ever before. Peace, for the first time, is part of the thematic program of the COP presidency, and different organizations, including myself, have started working to advocate for enhanced climate action in conflict-affected areas, as well as the need to make climate policies peace-responsive. So let me close with this message. Every action you take to live sustainably and live in harmony with nature is an action towards peace. Thank you.